I think, just to put some context into it, I mean, everybody knows, or I take it everybody knows who AFGRI is. Everybody understands that AFGRI is an agricultural services company. They are not a farmer. They are a services company to farmers. They have a large client base in South Africa. They have a large client base in Zambia. And they've realized that they need to expand their client base into Africa. The biggest problem AFGRI have got in Africa is there aren't enough commercial farmers for us to be able to put up agricultural service centers. So as far as commercial farmers are concerned, that is AFGRI's core business in South Africa. And going into Africa, it really wants to still service farmers, commercial farmers. However, what we have realized is that there has to be a mixture of commercial farmers and farmers becoming commercial, or emerging farmers, if I can use that. In order for us to be successful in Africa, we're going to have to do something to catalyze the emergence of local farmers. Because otherwise, farmers are just going to have the same problem everywhere they go in Africa, where there's going to be animosity to large-scale commercial farmers. So we felt that in order to be able to service commercial farmers correctly and to be able to give them a long-term objective in Africa, we better start looking at catalyzing the smaller farmers or emerging farmers in Africa to be able to compete at that commercial level and to be able to get there. So, for every X amount of hectares given for investment by commercial farmers, let's see how we can assist in making sure that there are local farmers also becoming commercial, and providing the full set of services that one would provide commercial farmers. How do we provide that to guys that at the moment can't afford it, but would possibly be able to afford it in the long term? So our focus from an agricultural development services perspective is to look at how do we start really servicing guys into the commercial farming operations, so that we can coexist on an African platform where there is emerging farmers in Africa being raised up. At the same time, there is foreign investment coming in from commercial farmers from outside of that continent or outside of that country. So for us, it's really to service farmers, and we believe that we're going to have to, if we want to really look at Africa in the short term, we're going to have to actually get involved with assisting farmers that might not be able to afford those services at this stage, that will afford the services as we go on, and we'd have to get a lot more involved. Currently, we're taking farmers to go and assist farmers in Africa with commercialization, with irrigation. The projects that we're rolling out at the moment are all irrigated, so we're only doing irrigated farming. I think it gives us a better chance of success. And obviously, the thing that was brought up this morning by Senekal Boerdery was, we've got to look at whatever we grow in that country, that there's actually a market for it. In a lot of places we think, oh well, Botswana imports so much potatoes, let's go and put up a 500-hectare potato farm, but the market takes it in little bits and pieces. It doesn't take everything at the same time in one harvest. So we're learning a lot in Africa. I think we've started learning that Africa is a totally different ballgame. But from our perspective, we need to service the commercial farmers, but we need to also start raising up new farmers that we can service in the years to come. So in terms of Abba in Aramaic means father. So what we have noticed in Africa is there's a massive lack of father figures in the community. So guys are not growing up with their parents, not growing up with fathers. As a farmer, most of you guys know you've grown up generation from generation from generation. I mean, farming you don't learn in 6 months, you don't learn in 5 years, you don't learn in 10 years. It's a generational thing. And in Africa, that just hasn't been there. And, the guys haven't had that support. So we've been saying, we need to, number one, give them that support from a commercial farming perspective. But I think what's even more important is to show them the Father's heart, and that's God's heart. Because again, I say I don't believe that we can do commercial farming, or we can do farming of any sort, without having the father involved. So I've just created a video to explain, or to show you what these ABBA projects, what one of the ABBA projects looks like. This particular project that we filmed is in Zambia. It's in western Zambia. It's about 45 kilometers from Sesheke, on the border of Katima Mulelu. And what this is we took a collective of, we've got a piece of land there of about 50 hectares that was given to local people by the Barotse government, by the Barotse king, sorry, on a type of leasehold. It's a different system there. But there are, currently we've got 5 farmers of about 5 hectares each, which makes up about 25 hectares, and we've got more farmers coming on. So by the end of next year, we're expecting about 50 hectares of vegetable farming taking place there. These farmers we started with about a year and a half ago. I think out of 5 of them, there's only 1 that speaks English. The rest of these guys haven't even had the opportunity to go to school, so they haven't been schooled. There's only 1 guy there that can read and write. The rest of the guys are illiterate. And when we started this thing, a lot of people said to us, "You're crazy. You can't go to people that are illiterate, that have never farmed, and turn them into farmers." I think what we're doing is we're just showing them how to farm. And what we've got is we've got a mentor there that lives with them. He's been down in Zambia now for 7 years. He's lived with the local community there. He speaks the local language. He speaks Losi. And he's been mentoring these guys. But he did it for 3 years without any access to capital, without any access to seed, fertilizer. And we thought, well, wow, a 50-hectare high-intense horticulture operation is actually a commercial operation. However, it encompasses now 5 farmers, and that will go up. Now, by the end of the year, we'll have about 11 farmers on that scheme. And all of them have got their own little piece of land that has been given to them. They're all in one place, so it's really like one big farm. They're really bordering each other, so it makes it a lot easier. We're irrigating out of the mighty Zambezi, so it's irrigated, directly pumped out of the Zambezi. But the structure of this thing is basically where we go in as partners to them. We've got a holding company that in Zambia that basically buys all the equipment that is required, so it's a fully mechanized operation. They've put in all the irrigation, this company. Those farmers under the scheme pay on an operating lease. Twice a year they pay a certain amount towards an operating, fully serviced operating lease for the equipment. And then they pay the inputs and etc. back on a per season basis. So what we then do is we don't charge them for any of that. We don't charge them interest. We don't charge them service fees. What we do is we share in their profits. So we will have guys there 24/7 assisting them. We share in their profits, and the program runs for 7 years. We believe after 7 years we should have been able to leave we should have been able to get these farmers to be sustainable by themselves and be in a position where, very much like the Senegal said, they won't really need banking unless they want to expand. They'd be able to carry on with the funds they've been able to build up over the 7 years we were there. So it's a new concept that we've started. We've got one in Zimbabwe, out in Bulawayo, where we've actually turned that into a college. So we've actually got 100 students on a 50-hectare horticulture plot. And then we've also done one in Uganda, but that we've done dry land. And I was explaining to somebody at the break, we've got a piece that we're doing with farmers up in Porongo. That's the northern part of Uganda. And it's about a 20-kilometer radius where all the farms are. And the one half of the farms are flooded. The other half hasn't had rain for 3 years. In a 20-kilometer radius, it's crazy. We've never seen anything like that before. So we're experimenting with these, but it's been incredible to see the growth of these farmers, because those 5 farmers are now exporting to Namibia on contracts to ShopRite, Pick n Pay, etc. So out of Western Zambia, you've got 5 farmers that 2 years ago were doing a 1/4 hectare maize with oxen. They now have their full 5 hectares. Some of them are up to that 5 hectares. Some of them are a bit slower. Some of them are not pushing as hard as the others. So some of them on 3 hectares, some of them on 5 hectares. And but the fact is that they are producing export quality product. So we honestly believe that, you know, if we're going to look at the long-term investment across the continent, we're going to need somehow to look at policy with government in terms of how do we ensure that the small-scale farmers within that area, we can get to be able to compete at a commercial level. And that's really what this is all about. It's about saying, how do we marry all this together? So if you don't mind, I'm just going to show you the video, and then I'll be happy to answer any questions that you have.
I think the future where we're going, I think it will be good. The life will change more and more.
All across sub-Saharan Africa are programs and projects looking to stimulate agricultural productivity among small-scale rural farmers. They are well-intentioned, run by competent and smart individuals, often with all the right components put in place: access to credit, quality inputs, training, and linkages to markets. But yet, they often don't reach the targets that they had initially set out to achieve or become commercially sustainable. For the last 93 years of working in agriculture in Africa, we've asked why. What is missing? AFGRI's ABBA projects are our attempt to address what's missing. It is our view that the core component missing is a 24/7 relationship-based commitment to farmer productivity. It is what we call our ABBA advantage. The ABBA figure lives with the local community. He or she speaks the local language. They provide training, mentorship, and accountability. You need to have somebody that is versed in farming, that understands the agricultural landscape of Africa, available to these farmers 24/7. Every day is a field day.
I think effective knowledge transfer comes from being there on a daily basis and repetition. You know, in many very poor areas like we have here in Western Zambia, people live for survival. They live and they're going to survive today. So what you want to do is you want to change that focus from just surviving to somebody that becomes a profitable farmer, and that not only look after his family, but also look after much more people, look after the community.
Since we started, it was just a small portion that we tried to do, but last year we tried to extend it and try to put more things, that the crops that you are seeing here.
You want to create a total independent farmer that can go on without you, so that I can leave and I go on to the next village and help more people there. But that's the whole goal.
In the future, when our contract will finish with Mr. Benjamin, I want more farmers to come so that I can give them some advice on how to farm, even to show them how to farm, and give them some of the skills which I have, which Mr. Benjamin has tried to give me.
The single most important component of AFGRI and its future is a farmer. We are, after all, an all-encompassing agricultural services company. How can we provide service to farmers that struggle to achieve maize yields of even less than 1 ton per hectare and themselves are not sustainable? I think the ABBA model is based on the precept of us managing the land and loving the people, rather than loving the land and managing the people. And that's what will make this successful.
Where we are going, maybe next year when you wanted to extend my house, build a permanent structure, and even the kids, they can go to school maybe some can be doctors, drivers at the future where we are going.
We started with 5 farmers about a year and 6 months ago. Those 5 farmers now employ 40 people, so call it 8 people per farm on average. And in terms of piece jobs, we call it in South Africa, but it's obviously casual labor, we do about 1,400 people a year. We find that in the planting season we've got a lot of women that come on and assist with the planting. We just find that they're a lot better at the planting than we found the men to be. They're a lot kinder to the plants. And then obviously at harvesting time. So a small operation like that has been able to make a major difference in an area that's got very little. You know, I was also saying at the break, you know, we're learning a lot. We are really learning a lot. I mean, to take an example of watermelons, everybody is telling us the best watermelon seed, I can't remember the brand or the variety, is this. Those things literally about a couple of days before we had to, or a week or so before we harvested, these things were just popping in the field. And we couldn't go to anybody around there to find out what is grown because nobody grows anything. So eventually we got hold of a guy in Namibia, and he's a big watermelon farmer in Namibia, and he said, no, he had exactly the same school fees he paid a couple of years ago, and he said to us, this is the variety you got to put in, and we put it in this year, and we've had bumper crops. And it is little simple things like that that we start learning from the guys, and it's amazing, and it's a journey we're really enjoying because, you know, it's really about fathership and it's really about discipleship, and it's amazing to see the transformation in these people's lives. Thank you very much. Thanks. I really appreciate you listening.